But first, if Audrey is on, we want to turn the time over to Audrey. Let me just see if she's in.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay, sweet. I'll go ahead and turn the time over to you, Audrey.
Thank you. I am, as you know, entering a new phase of life with another child. Maybe you don't know that. I just had a baby. And I just wanted to say a goodbye to this group in particular. And I wrote down what I wanted to say because whether you're watching the recording or not, this group has been very special to me. And I just wanted to say a formal goodbye to you. I have loved leading this group, whether you're new today or whether you joined me 3 years ago or 4 years ago almost. That's crazy. I'm so thankful for the experiences and the time that we've shared together, especially when my abuela, who I was a caregiver of, passed away in 2022. I know some of you were there during that time. It is not easy to be a caregiver. It's heavy, and there's so many things that go on in your life on top of being a caregiver, and it changes your whole dynamic with this person, and it changes how you view yourself and your entire identity. And there are days where it's fine, and there are days where it seems impossible. And I guess I just wanted to say that that connection that we have will never change, and just how privileged I feel to have been able to be a big part of this group. I am confident in Cindy's abilities. It's always hard to jump into a new role, especially when you're a public facing role. But Cindy, I know you're going to do a great job. And just to this group, continue being open and honest with one another. That's some of the best sessions we've had, is when we've been able to be vulnerable and share our experiences, the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful. And I'm really excited for Georgia's presentation today. Georgia is an amazing moderator and presenter, and really allows us to take action steps home where we can become better people and better caregivers. So thanks for letting me say my piece, Cindy. And again, you're going to be so capable and really grow into this role. I'm sure of it. So thank you to all of you, and I will miss you. And I just wanted to say that quick goodbye. So thank you.
Thank you, Audrey. I appreciate the vote of confidence. Today was a little bit trickier than my first time. So I think we've got it all worked out though. So thank you. Okay, so we'll jump in now. I know we're all looking forward to learning about a tricky topic, handling difficult decisions and conversations. So I'll go ahead and introduce our speaker today, Georgia Anderson. Georgia Anderson is a present-based leadership coach, Gottman-trained relationship educator, and board-certified massage therapist. She founded knowhowmom.com in 2015 after decades of educating families. She coaches and teaches simple skills that anyone can master for strong connections and personal flourishing. Georgia lives in Salt Lake City with her husband, Mark, and is the proud spoiler of 13 grandkids. She loves to kayak, ski, hike, and surf. So we'll go ahead and turn the time over to you, Georgia. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Cindy. And wow, things have changed. I have 18 grandchildren since I sent that bio over to you guys a few years ago.
Oh, I'll have to add that in.
Yeah, we've been busy over here. Well, I haven't been so busy. My children have been busy. It's so nice to be with you again. It's been a while. I'm so grateful to HealthTree Foundation for having me here, and love the work you're doing. I'm just so grateful to be a part of this and to be here with you today, who are in the trenches, who are living it and doing the work. And if you didn't see my chat, if you have a writing utensil handy or a pencil and paper, that will come in handy today. This will be a very interactive session. You won't just be listening to me talk, you're going to be busy. So get ready to be busy and to be physically and mentally involved. I'm going to ask you to be busy with your body and your hands and your mind. Just to practice that, I want you to just settle in right now and think about how you feel at this moment. If I were to say, how are you today? I would like you to type in the chat how you are, and please don't say fine. Think of a word or two that describes how you are today. And just type it into the chat for me. And if you don't want to type it in, think it in your mind. And Cindy, if you see any words coming up, you can read them aloud for me.
Okay, perfect. We've got scared, beady, feeling grateful, tired. You can understand that one. Content, concerned, tired and scared. A lot of scared feelings today, for sure.
Great, thank you. Thank you for being willing to share what you how you actually are. So something I always do before every session with a client or in my own day is a little centering exercise. And I'm going to invite you to do that with me today. If you would like to turn on your video, that would be fine, so I can see you. If you want to do this on your own, that's great. If you would like to do it sitting down, that's fine. I'm going to stand, and I would recommend, if you can, to stand to do this exercise. It will help you focus more. So I'm just going to take a stand up here, and if you would like to do it sitting, that's just fine. This will take us about 3 to 5 minutes, so get yourself ready to do this full centering practice, okay? Whether you're standing or sitting, I'm going to invite you to bring your attention to your feet. And if you're sitting in a chair, bring your attention also to your seat, the places in you or on you that are touching the ground or connected in some way to the ground. And just sense the sensation of that connection and how different it feels at the bottom of your feet or in your seat in relation to the earth and where you're connected by gravity in comparison to the other places that are just floating free. Just get a sense of that. Your body, your system, this whole thing that makes up you, all the chemicals that make up you, are designed to be in an upright position, whether sitting or standing, with your head upright. And if that's available to you, I invite you to sense into that, to the length of your entire person, from the bottom of your feet that are touching the ground to the top of your head. This is how your system is designed to be, upright, facing forward. See if you can breathe into that whole sense of length in you, that sense of dignity, that facing forward, grounded to the earth, but also free-floating, head upright, reaching to the sky. Breathe completely into that sense of length and dignity. And notice whether you're taking advantage of that the way you were designed. You may sense that often you're slumping down or crouching forward a little bit, or bending down, just scrunching, or maybe you're really stretching beyond your length. Play with just getting in a comfortable, dignified position. Okay? Next, I want you to bring your attention to your shoulders, your hips, the outsides of your legs, down to the outsides of your ankles. So side to side. And it might help if you even rock a little bit side to side. Okay, so we're going to focus now on the width of our body. That sense of taking up space. Notice the space you take in the room you're in. Notice the space you take in the building or park or whatever place you're in. Notice the space you take in your community. Notice the space you take in your city or town or state or country. Notice the space you take in the world. And now expand that. Notice the space you take in the universe. Just for a moment, expand your width, your space, just even if it's tiny. Expand that width. Imagine you're taking a little more space than normal. Notice what that feels like. And then come in and take a little bit less space than you're used to taking, making yourself a little small. Notice the sensations that come with that. And now come to a place that feels like a comfortable sense of space, side to side. In this part of the centering exercise, we're really focusing on belonging, a sense of belonging in the place you are, a sense of belonging in your body, of taking space. Okay, finally, I'm going to invite you to focus now on the back side of your body, the back of your heels, the back of your calves, the back of your rear end, the back of your back, your spine, your shoulder blades, the back of your neck, the back of your head. See if you can just breathe into that backside. And now put on your imagination cap, and I want you to imagine a big, thick dinosaur tail coming out the backside of you. And in this dinosaur tail contains all your history, your education, your family dynamics, your genetics, your experiences, the positives, the negatives, all the stuff behind you is all contained in this dinosaur tail. And this dinosaur tail goes on and on and on and past, way past what you can see. Generations behind you. But it's connected to you. Sense into that dinosaur tail. And if you want to try even leaning back on a little bit, notice how, a dinosaur kind of balances on their tail. They use it as a sense of sturdiness. Okay, so noticing that whole backside, including the dinosaur tail. Next, bring your attention forward through your body to the front of you, the tip of your nose, your forehead, the front of your throat, your chest, belly, all the way down the front of your thighs, front of your pelvis, front of your knees, down to your toes. Sense into all the parts of you that are facing forward, and even lean into your toes a little bit if you want, just barely. This is the part of you that you show up with. This is the part of you that's moving forward, the part of you that's thinking about the future. Now I'm going to invite you to really find the middle between that dinosaur tail and the back side, and the front side, the forward side, till you get right to the center. If any of you have ever been to a planetarium, you may have seen the big pendulums that knock down the little pieces of wood. Think of your body right now as that, okay? So we've got this length, this sense of length, this sense of width, and this sense of depth. Think of yourself as that pendulum swinging around until you get to the very middle place. And breathe into that very center place, that center of dignity, belonging, and depth. And just pay attention to how you feel in this moment, maybe in comparison to how you felt before you did this centering exercise. You may be feeling the very same feelings, but they may be a little bit more heightened. And go ahead and have a seat if you were standing. Thanks for doing that with me. My purpose for today is to bring awareness to the tools you have right inside of you already today for managing challenges regarding your current situation, maybe a new situation that you're finding yourself in, with a diagnosis related to someone or someone or yourself, someone you're caring for. I currently this year lost both of my parents and spent a lot of time caregiving for them. So this is a subject very dear to my heart, and these things stand out to me big time right now. And I know everyone's situation is different, but I want you to know that I have respect for what you're doing. Today we're going to talk about some of the challenges that come with dealing with self-care during a time of caretaking, whether you're caring for your own self or someone else. We're going to talk about identity shifts, challenges that come with new roles that we take on in a relationship that can be really like, who is this person? What am I dealing with now? And is this the person I thought I was with before? I certainly experienced that with my parents. Also, navigating difficult discussions around future and present and roles and responsibilities and decisions about life and death. Really big decisions that maybe you didn't even have on your radar before and now need to be on the radar. Or you wanted them to be on the radar, but don't know quite how to go about it. Of course, we will not have much time at all to address those in great detail, but I want to discuss some of the things that will get you in a place to talk about them effectively, okay? So there's always room to talk about the minutia. It's sometimes getting the conversation started and getting in a place where we can talk about it that's so hard. So sometimes just talking about difficult things can be kind of traumatic. So as we have this discussion, I'm going to ask you to really take care of yourself. If you need to stand up and get a drink or walk around, take care of yourself, do whatever you need to do, okay? All right, I'm going to start sharing my screen here and we're going to go through some slides. First of all, just to talk about, didn't mean to put him up first, okay. Just to talk about what we're going through, some of the things that we're going through. So some of the situations I just mentioned have to do with these things that are the definition of trauma. A situation where you feel helpless due to deeply distressing or disturbing experiences. Well, having a new diagnosis or an old diagnosis that you're still dealing with can certainly be that. And feeling helpless can have a lot to do with self-care and that sense of dignity that we practiced in the centering exercise. Okay. The next thing, connections when trauma is present can feel very unsafe or non-existent. I'd like to bring your attention to that sense of belonging that we talked about in the centering exercise. That sense of belonging where you're not sure how you fit into this relationship anymore or how you belong. And thirdly, unsure of what will happen next and unable to cope or control with the situation. That would definitely fit into that sense of depth, that sense of history and future, of being unstable or feeling unstable in that sense of forward and back and where you belong in this moment of self-sufficiency. So these experiences can all overwhelm both ourselves and our relationships. They can break down our sense of safety, belonging, and dignity, both individually and collectively as a team, unless we learn to deal with them and make them places where we grow instead of suffering so much. Okay, so how do people deal with trauma regularly? Well, on the regular, we have built-in systems that make us feel secure and really help us in difficult situations. You've often, I think most people have heard of fight, flight, and freeze. I'm going to add two more to that. Sometimes we hear fawn. I wrote it down as appease, but the fawn is the same kind of a response. And I also added disassociate because I think some of us do that in times of struggle. These things that you see on the screen are actually our friends. They actually, at one point or another, were our brain's way of helping us to deal with a difficult situation, and they were helpful. They actually helped us at some point in our lives to deal with something that was challenging. So I want to start out by saying these are not the enemy. These things are our friends. We need to keep them in their rightful place and use them at the right time. Problem is, our brains are very efficient at latching onto something and keeping it and using it over and over when it works. So our brain wants to do the same thing over and over again every time we have something. So you may find, we're going to do a little exercise here, a little review of each of these words. And you may find that you really have a favorite, that one of these is your going to go-to thing. And what I want you to do is try to parse that out. And I'm going to have you take this, a little bit of this into your own body. I'm not going to ask you to do it 100%. Please take it at about 7%. Do it at about 7% when I give you the instruction, and see which one feels like, oh, this is my go-to. You'll probably have one or two that will be your go-to. Okay. So the first one that we're going to take on is fight. I have this lion here because animals are very good at doing these responses. Okay, so they are the pros. They don't have quite the prefrontal cortex we do. So they just go for it in their instincts. So I want you to take a good look at this lion. Take a good look at his muscle tone. Imagine what his heart rate is doing. Look at the face. Look at the stance. And I want to invite you to take that on at about 7%. Don't do 100%. Take it on. And notice what happens to your heart rate. Notice what happens to your peripheral vision. Notice what happens to your muscle tone. And notice what narrative you might be speaking in your mind along with that. Okay, go ahead and let that go. Shake it out, do whatever you want to do, let that go, let it off. That's fight. Next, I want you to take on flight. You are getting out of here at any cost, okay? So notice the muscle tone, imagine the heart rate, imagine the peripheral vision, imagine the body, the action the body wants to take. And go ahead and take that on at about 7% into your own system. Notice your muscle tone, your heart rate, your peripheral vision, the stance your body wants to take, and maybe the narrative that goes along with it. Okay, once you've sensed that, let go, shake it out. That was flight. Next, I'm going to give you an opossum. Opossums are very good at playing dead. They even can stink for a half an hour like they're dead. Crazy. They're very good at freeze. Okay, so I want you to take on this opossum. Notice the muscle tone. Notice the focus. Imagine the heart rate, the body position, and imagine the narrative. Go ahead and take that on in your own body at about 7%. In a stressful situation. And notice all those things in you. What you start to think about, your muscle tone, your heart rate, your ability to see clearly. Just pay attention. And let that one go. Okay, next one is fawn or appease. Puppies, dogs are really good at this one. You notice when a bigger dog shows up, they always roll over on their back and expose the most vulnerable parts of themselves do whatever you want. I'm safe. I won't hurt you. Do anything. They just totally expose themselves and make themselves completely vulnerable. Okay, so take a look at that picture. Take it on yourself at 7%. Notice the muscle tone. Notice the vulnerability. Notice the exposure. Notice the willingness to do whatever they want, whatever the other person wants. Take this on yourself. Notice what's happening inside of you.
So that was nice talking with him. They're having a baby in August.
And then go ahead and let that go.
You there?
Okay, we're going to move on to the last one, which is disassociate. So this guy may be fishing, but when people do this, our body is in the room, but our mind is somewhere else. Our mind has gone away. We don't want to think about the situation. We don't want to talk about the situation. It's like we're there, but we wish we were somewhere else. And so we're almost transporting our brain to another place. Okay. So I want you to go ahead and take this idea on of disassociating. Your body is there. Your brain goes somewhere else. Take it on at about 7%. Notice your heart rate. Notice what you can see clearly around you. Notice your muscle tone. Notice the narrative that might be going on. And then let that one go. Go ahead and shake that out. Okay, so just take a minute and think about which of those might be your favorite, meaning the one you go to in a difficult time. And just be aware of it. All I'm asking you to do is be aware of it. I'm not asking you to change it, okay? And we will come back to this later, like the idea of how to change something in the last minute or two. I know we're already running short. So once we start to notice, let me stop sharing for a second here so I can be fully here. Once we start to notice these habits that we have in our body that show up when we're in a difficult situation or a difficult conversation, or where we're thinking about having a difficult interaction or conversation, once we become more expert at noticing which one we are going to go to, we can then make decisions about what we want to do about it and prepare for those situations more readily. So even if today you got a little hint at which one or two that might be your habit when you think back on difficult times you've had or difficult situations, even knowing that and watching yourself, you're not going to go into the next conversation and not do it. I promise you that. You're going to do it, and it's okay. It's your body. It's you taking care of yourself. It's you taking care of yourself the best way your body knows how. If you want to improve upon that and you want to alter it, the best thing to do is to start being aware of when you do it. Start noticing when you do it and which one you're using after the fact. Like, oh, when I had that conversation with so-and-so, I really went into fight. That was my go-to to protect myself. Okay? As you start to do this and you keep note of it in your mind or even in a journal, which would be even better, pretty soon the space is going to shorten of when you realize it. pretty soon when you start paying attention, you're going to start noticing it while you're doing it. Ah, I'm in appease right now. I'm appeasing this person. As you start paying attention. And then pretty soon you're going to start to notice, I'm about to appease this person, or I'm about to fight with this person. And that's the beauty. That's the beautiful point, the sweet point where you get to make a choice. Do I want to try something different? Another way of interacting with myself or this person. So that's all I'm going to talk about those. I want to switch gears a little bit here and think about, once we get really accustomed to paying attention to how we're showing up, how we may want to shift that and go into a different way of being. So I feel like the best way to do that is to be really aware of what we want in relationship to ourselves and what we want in relationship to those that we care about. So I'm going to share my screen again, and this is where we might need a writing utensil if you have one, because we're going to make a little chart here. Where are we going and why are we going there? With the precious time we have with our loved ones and our lives, what do we care most about? What do we want out of the situation we're in? I think answering this question is vital to what we get in the present moment, regardless of the circumstances. We can't always change our circumstances, but we can always adjust the way we respond to them. So we're going to do a little exercise here, and maybe you've done this with yourself before, but we're going to talk about guiding values. Values are principles, beliefs, and standards that guide our behavior and decisions. So first of all, if we become aware of what we're naturally doing, the behaviors we've taken on because they were safe at some point, they helped us in some situation, but our brain has habituated them, and we're starting to act in ways because we've been faced with a new situation. We're going into old habits that maybe aren't serving us best, right? So we want to create some new ways of being, is what we're looking at here. It's simple, it's not easy. So know that I know that, and I honor that. So we're going to look at some values, these standards and beliefs that can guide our behavior. And your new situation may require revisiting your values and deciding on things that are now going to guide your behavior and decisions. So I'm going to invite everyone, if you can possibly, to make a little chart like this one. One column for value, a word, one column for origin or your why that's important, and then a column for a statement. So if you have an opportunity to just quickly jot that down, I'm going to give you a list, and I'm going to say 2 minutes, and I'm going to give you a whole bunch of words. If the word you want is not on there, pick your own, of values, ways you want to direct your life in your current situation that will be your guiding principles, your guiding values. Okay, so there's just some options. Pick, let's say 3. If you're really fast, jot down 5 and put them in that first column. And by the way, this is not written in stone. This is an exercise. You can always come back and refine this and do it differently. Just for the sake of doing the exercise, quickly write down 3. Then in the next column, one short sentence of why that's important to you. Why is that word the one you picked? Why is it important? And then in the third column, write a sentence about that value, or I value blank because blank. It'll kind of be a repeat of your second column. I value blank because of blank. Okay, I hope all of you have at least one done because we're going to do a little exercise with one of those. Are we good to do it? Good to go on? Okay. All right. You can sit or you can stand for this one, but I'm going to ask you to come back to your body again. And I want you to take on, as if you were a sculptor, I want you to take on a position of challenge or sadness or trauma, a position that you are experiencing that where you may have done fight, flight, freeze, appease, or disassociate. And take on just that position of what it feels like to disassociate. So if I'm disassociating, I may just go here with my eyes up. I'm not seeing reality. And I'm slumped over a little bit. And I just don't want to be here. So whatever yours is, if it's fight, it might be here. Anything that your body tells you to do in that place, go ahead and even if it's minuscule and I can't see anything, it's fine. Take on that moment of trauma or stress into your body, and as if you're sculpting a statue, go ahead and do it. Okay, let it go. Next, I want you to take on the statue of your first value word. Your first value word. Okay. So if mine were openness, I may just slightly open my arms out. My gaze may come more horizontal to my place of being, whatever it is. Take on that body position of that first value. Go back to the first one again, go back to your fight, flight, appease, or disassociate. Go back. Move out of it to the second one, please, to your value. Pay attention as you move back and forth to what's happening to your breath, your muscle tone, your heart rate, and the narrative in your head. And I want to invite you now to stay standing or sitting in the value you chose. Notice what's different. And thank you for doing that. I know that we have gone a little bit over. I'm going to run one more slide here. If you are in relationship with someone, hopefully both of you can do that values exercise and ask these questions. Where are we similar in our values? Where are we different? And how do we want to navigate that as we move forward together? To really to respect both of our values and give them space and room to grow. I'm going to stop sharing and we'll wrap up with that slide. So I'm sorry I went a little bit over, but I would love to hear any questions or thoughts that you have about the exercises and what we just discussed. You're welcome to raise your hand or write in the chat.
All right. Barb has raised her hand. Barb, feel free to go ahead and unmute yourself.
I found it to be relaxing. And I've had a really, really stressful several days. My computer was hacked and I have I'm on the phone all day long trying to get things squared away and give people my new email, my new bank account number, and
Gosh.
this just kind of calmed me down.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that, Barb.
Thank you.
That tool is available to you anywhere. That centering tool is available to you in any situation, in any doctor's office, in any situation that is available to you right inside your body.
I thought also it was interesting that my immediate reaction was to fight.
Hmm.
And, fight means sticking to it and doing what has to be done. And I think it's straightened out. And so now I'm just kind of like appease.
Hmm.
I just want to lay on my back and just say whatever.
And Barb, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
When you wanted to go to appease, did that align with any of the values you chose?
Yeah, it
What
did.
was would you be willing to share the value you chose?
Yeah. The first value I have was caring.
Hmm.
And, I like to help others, and that was kind of my origin and my statement. And then kindness. And again, I like to help others. I like to make people feel good.
Mhm.
My third was faith. And I like to help myself.
Hmm.
And I need to believe.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you for sharing those.
You're welcome.
Perfect. Georgette, you can go ahead and unmute.
I generally, when we were, I think that the noticing what we do in situations that are traumatic or difficult, I thought that was really helpful, because I've always only thought of fight or flight. I didn't have all of those other ones to kind of refine the feeling. But when we were in the flight, which is my way of going, it's to avoid it. I want to get away from this difficult situation, no matter what it is. I realized that the feeling that came with that was failure, that I didn't have the gumption to fight. And that was a revelation. And it's something that, I want to notice that more. And I want to notice these other things that are also ways of dealing with things that don't necessarily, are not necessarily not productive. They can be productive, but my definition, like, but when you freeze, or if I freeze, I felt like, okay, that's a safe place to be, because I am not being out there in the world. I'm invisible. But if I try to appease can be insincere. That was my first reaction. Appeasing just to make the situation better, that might not be, that might make it better in the moment, but that might not be something that comes from my heart. And I thought that the disassociate, of course, was avoidance. It was hiding. It was fear. Anyway, so I thought that was a really, really helpful segment of what you did. And and I was kind of happy about the values that I picked: adaptability, ethics, and service. And I was surprised when those popped out at me, and I thought, okay, that is really kind of me, having been a nurse and now having, my husband with multiple myeloma. Anyway, thank you for giving me this time.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. It's so helpful to know, to hear someone else's experience in what comes up with some of those, taking on some of those things, and realizing that we all do them in stressful situations, and that we may want to choose something different going forward. And just to experiment with it, right? Yeah, all of these things can just be experiments. If we notice ourselves appeasing and not really taking care of ourselves, but just letting everyone else take over, and we start to pay attention to ourselves doing that, whether it's in a doctor's appointment or it's at home or in relationship. Again, like I said, the time span, as we stay aware, the time span will start to shrink until we notice, oh, I'm in it. And then we'll start to notice before we get there. That's the goal. And then replacing it with the values we hold dear and the way we want to show up. So thank you for sharing that.
I love it. I also didn't offer the tutorial, but if anybody else wants to share or has a comment, you can raise your hand by clicking the raise your hand icon at the bottom, or just turn your cameras on and give us a little wave, and we'll call on you that way as well. And I don't want to take any of your precious time, but I'll share while we're waiting for any other comments. For myself, appeasing and dissociating is one of those are my two that I go to. And I think recently, as I've looked at those two responses, it's interesting to notice where those responses came from, where they made you feel safe and why they made you feel safe. And then having that power or that inclination to want to take some of those others on and own them and be able to make them yours and, express them when you need to, because there are times when it's appropriate to fight. And there are times when it's appropriate to maybe not fight. So, yeah, that was just the things that came up for me while you were speaking.
Great.
Right.
Any other
Anybody else?
questions, thoughts?
Oh.
Yes.
There you go. All right, Barb's got her hand. Go ahead, Barb, and unmute. Good job.
I think you're muted, Barb.
Let me see if I can unmute. Yeah.
I got it.
Good job.
About appeasing, I'm not the kind of person who would normally appease. But my husband and I have a communication problem. And today it started up, and he's stressed, I'm stressed. And finally I just kind of gave up and said, do what you want to do.
Mm.
So that's where the appeasing comes in.
Yes.
And sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it isn't what Georgette said, that it isn't genuine. Sometimes it isn't.
Right.
Sometimes it's just what I have to
Appeasing
do.
is different than caring. Appeasing
Yeah.
is something we do in self-protection.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not the same as compassion.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's a way of protecting ourselves, and that's when it can be dangerous, is when we're appeasing only to avoid conflict or to avoid any more discussion. And women generally are more the appeasing one. I'm not trying to generalize too much, but generally women tend to fall in that category of appeasing. Everyone's unique, of course. Something my husband and I love to do is to people watch, but we kind of watch. My husband's a physical therapist, and then I'm a leadership coach. So I'm kind of watching the emotional body language and he's watching the physical body language. But I love to watch people's body position and just kind of figure out which one of those they're stuck in. And often, as women, we will just kind of always, you'll see women just holding this position a lot. Oh, sure, whatever you want, kind of a thing. And we're just exposing our jugular, the most, vulnerable place in our whole body. We're exposing our jugular vein. It's amazing how your body keeps the score, and how your body can tell you which one of these you're standing in. And that's why I asked you to pay attention to your heart rate and your muscle tone and your field of vision, because when you're in these positions, you will definitely hold those in your body and in your posture. If you start paying attention to your body when you're in these positions, you will notice you are making the very pose of the animals we showed you, but on a much smaller scale. So something interesting to watch. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Were you finished?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I guess I have just one other question. So with looking at those different opportunities to use the different responses, is there a way to practice getting more comfortable with some of the other responses?
Yes, thank you so much. And we flew through that, but that's where I had you do the exercise, and I put it in the body because the body's the fastest way to learn by experiencing something. That's why I asked you to take on the position of the habit you have, the habit of one of those 5 things that come up with trauma or difficulty. Get your body in the position of that thing, and then take your body to the position of the value you want it to be in, the way you want to show up. Almost 99% of the time, I'd say, or even 100% of the time, you will have to go through a letting go, some kind of a letting go. So if I was in that one where I was disassociated, I was hunched over and my eyes were up, and I wanted to get to a place of openness, I had to let go of the hunch. You think you're slumped and hunched because it's easier, but that's just like those responses. They're not easier. They're holding your body in an unnatural position. So I want to get back to the way my system was designed, into that dignified sense of belonging, sense of depth, sense of length, width, and depth. So I want to release whatever's holding me down with my eyes forced up, this very uncomfortable position, and let go, which for me is getting back to that centering place. And that's why I took you so long to take you through that centering exercise. I have been coaching people in this arena now for almost a decade, and centering practice, that simple centering practice, is probably the most valuable thing anyone can learn and practice and keep with you, because it will help your body to realign, to get back to a place of choice, to get back to a place of who you really are inside, the real you, not the you that had to be shaped by difficult circumstances and hold certain things and behave a certain way. Gets back to the free, purposeful self that can use the whole brain that we humans have to make choices, to be conscious, to be kind, to be empathetic to ourselves and to others. Does that answer the question?
It does. And I love just the visual of taking up space. I feel like that's something that I personally have to work on, is taking up space and finding my voice. So thank you. That was really good.
Yeah.
Want to make sure if anybody else has a question or comment, give that opportunity.
And if you don't, I have a 60-second closing exercise that are you okay with
Perfect.
that? Okay.
100%. Go for it.
Okay, so this is based on the research of Kristen Neff, who is a PhD, very well-known teacher in self-compassion. So we've talked a lot about some difficult things today, and we're all facing difficult things and need to deal with them in our own ways, and hopefully with a little more clarity after today. But at that same time, we've got to show a lot of kindness to ourselves and to others. So I'm going to show you this very simple self-compassion exercise and ask you to follow along with me. So I want you to think about a difficulty that you're experiencing right now. And several of you expressed that you were feeling kind of down or tired, or there were a lot of words in that first thing. I want you to locate that in your body. Locate that feeling in your body. And just give it some attention and just notice it. Next step to that, after noticing it, is to bring a hand to the place you're feeling it. So for me, I'm going to bring a hand here. The purpose for this part of the exercise is to help this part of you recognize that you are not alone, and that another part of you can come to protect and be with this part. So physically bring a hand to that place. The third part of the exercise is to send, figuratively and literally, that place in you, send it a smile and some love. So the 3 steps to self-compassion are noticing what the problem is, recognizing that you are not alone, even within your own self. This thing is not all of you, it's part of you, bringing another part of you to this place. And thirdly, sending it some love from you. I hope you noticed a small change in that exercise. It's very clinically proven to be effective in helping us deal with challenges. So I hope you'll practice that on a regular basis. And thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. I know I learned a lot. Mindfulness and just how to work through difficult conversations and all of that is really something I feel like it's a lifelong pursuit. So thank you so much, Georgia. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again, and we'll get through the closing parts of our meeting today. There we go. Of course, as you guys leave your session today, we would appreciate you taking 2 to 3 minutes to fill out a brief survey about your experience. Our next caregiver event should be announced soon, but in the meantime, here are a few other upcoming events that we would love for you to join. So Wednesday, June 26th at 3 p.m., we have our virtual HealthTree Cure Tour. On Thursday, June 27th, our Black Myeloma community will hear from Jay from the HealthTree research team, who will discuss exploring HealthTree research opportunities for the Black myeloma community. And then Monday, July 1st, we will hear about palliative care for blood cancer patients and caregivers. Another good topic and discussion. As always, we would like to thank our sponsors without whom this event would not be possible: Adaptive, AbbVie, Genentech, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, Regeneron, and Sanofi. And thank you for helping us build a strong myeloma crowd community. I appreciate you, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.